My name is Dan Culliford. I help lead the sales engineering and consulting engineering teams here in Americas region. I'm joined by my colleague and coworker, Adam Derrick, and we've got a few different items that we want to go over today in terms of ways that you can master, get better, iterate on how organizations can manage their Apple Mac devices at various different levels of scale. So first of all, Adam's going to be going over a few different items on security and compliance policies. Some things you may have already seen before, some things are very new. At Jamf, in the middle there, I'm going to be talking a bit about infrastructure as code and various different techniques that we have to help codify the configuration of not just your Mac management that it says there, but actually other elements of the security posture of your Mac fleet. And so that's going to be exciting to go over with you guys. And then Adam's going to bring us home some adoptions of end user convenience and security tools that are really key, and some updates in recent macOS software that improved that experience as well. So that's the agenda today. But really the theme of this is that Jamf obviously is well known for being an MDM. It's a wonderful MDM, but an MDM alone is difficult to cut it in terms of what is required to manage a modern Mac fleet, really any IT organization. There's security capabilities that are going to be needed. There's end user convenience. There's remote access tools. And then there's just managing this entire ecosystem, which is difficult to do when you're trying to scale something that previously was just about management, and now it has all of these other controls as well. So that's generally the theme of today's webinar. We're going to be introducing a few different controls, but also talking about how you can configure and manage those in a scalable way. So I think I'll click one more slide and it's over to you now, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So yeah, let's talk about, enforcing security policies and making sure that our environment is compliant. So, um, let's talk about some benefits of compliance. So obviously you have monetary fines and sanctions, but there's other benefits that allow security compliance in an organization to be kind of the top level thing. So number one, we want to go ahead and protect our company's reputation. So security compliance, it measures and ensures that our company is taking the necessary steps to protect sensitive information like customer data from unauthorized access and theft. So this can help build trust with your customers and stakeholders and protect the company's reputation. Mitigating security risks. So, compliance frameworks often provide guidelines for identifying and mitigating security risks. So, by implementing these measures, we could reduce the likelihood of a security breach, which could result in costly downtime, data loss, and damage to your brand. Enhancing customer confidence. When customers know that your company is compliant with security regulations, they are more likely to trust your brand and feel confident in doing business with you. This can result in increased customer loyalty and repeat business. Improving operational efficiency. Security compliance often involves implementing processes and procedures that it could improve your company's operational efficiency. For example, complying with industry specific standards may require you to implement better data management processes, which can help streamline your operations and improve productivity. Staying ahead of the competition. Compliance with security regulations can give your company a competitive edge over other businesses in your industry. By demonstrating your commitment to security, you could differentiate yourself from competitors and attract new customers who prioritize security and privacy. So let's talk a little bit about how compliance benchmarks work in Jamf Pro. So automated compliance tracking allows us to maintain CIS benchmarks with a single click. Flexible benchmarking, it lets us align with CIS level 1, level 2, or we could even define our own standards. Visibility and insights allow us to identify compliance gaps before they become risks. And seamless policy enforcement simplifies security at scale. So in Jamf Pro, these are located on the left-hand navigation menu. When clicking on a tab, it'll bring you your compliance configuration dashboard. Next up, I have a demo of what it looks like to create a compliance strategy for your fleet. And then we'll break it down from there a little bit. So what's happening here, we're choosing which compliance baseline we want to utilize, in this case, CIS level 1. And then we could go ahead and set our enforcement type. So we could have it monitor or monitor and enforce. From here, we're going to go ahead and choose all managed computers. And now we could go ahead and specify which rules we want to enforce in our environment. We could also view detailed information on those specific rules. If there's a specific rule that we don't want to apply to our baseline, such as time machine backups, nobody in the enterprise uses time machine backups, we could simply go ahead and deselect that option. Then from here, we could customize specific messages that will be displayed to our end users. This is all being done inside of Jamf Pro without any need for any additional third-party tools. Once we go ahead and customize our message here, next we could go ahead and send these rules down to our computers. So we're going to go ahead and select next. And now we're just going to review our rules that we're going to be deploying. And the neat thing with this is, once we go ahead and save and deploy, it's going to go ahead and build out these configuration profiles and policies and any smart groups and extension attributes without any additional work needed. And just like that, we have CIS level 1 being enforced in our environment, all through the power of Jamf Pro. I did want to call out one thing from that demo. So, on the last step before deployment, we were able to review everything that's going to get deployed to our computers. This is essential so that you know what will be applied to computers and if it will affect any other policies or configuration profiles that might have already been deployed. Always remember to test before deploying to production. Breaking it down a little bit, you can also see the individual configuration profiles, policies, and scripts that are deployed. All objects are created and categorized for you. And then in this screenshot from a bird's eye view, you could see the pass, fail, and unknown reporting. Clicking on these titles allows you to dig deeper. Now, specifically, this is compliance benchmarks for macOS. This is built into Jamf Pro. It does require Jamf account SSO in order to get it set up, but very nice feature to have to help secure our devices. A secure device is only the first step. So every device has a use, and in some cases, more than one, depending on the environment. This means you need to ensure that only authorized users are using those secure and compliant devices that are the gateway to access company apps and data. So secure access, it needs to work in harmony with not only management, but your identity tools. If a device falls out of compliance or is compromised, you can instantly revoke access, maintaining your security posture. Features like privilege elevation and ZTNA streamlines identity and access management, giving you confidence that only authorized users on compliant devices can access sensitive work resources. Launched in 2019, Jamf Protect is purpose-built macOS endpoint protection. Just like Jamf Pro, Jamf Protect provides same-day support for hardware. So when Apple launched the Apple Silicon chip, we were able to support that right away, as well as software support, like when macOS 26 gets launched. Jamf Protect has robust integrations that play nice and complement your existing security stack. The threat landscape, it's constantly evolving. Threat actors are increasingly targeting macOS vulnerabilities, which is why it's crucial to stay on the latest OS versions. With Jamf, you ensure continuous protection against these emerging threats. Cyber attacks are increasingly sophisticated, targeting Mac devices and sensitive data in today's modern workplace. Proactive and ongoing threat prevention is essential to stay ahead, ensuring your Mac endpoints are safeguarded from deployment through their entire lifecycle. Web protection blocks network-based threats. Endpoint threat prevention monitors app behavior for malware, telemetry data, enhances Mac incident response, and integration with your SIEM or source solutions ensure full visibility and faster threat hunting, all to provide robust, proactive security for your Mac fleet. So, building upon the three previous items, we're redefining the boundaries of Apple device management. Apple management now includes security baseline, software as a service protection, app control, and compliance policies. It's not just about deployment, it's about holistic security and management.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam. I'm up to talk a bit more about GitOps, Terraform, and codifying your Mac management. Now, you may hear some other terms being thrown around here in terms of infrastructure as code, but generally, the industry in lots of areas, not just in Mac management, is moving towards options to allow the democratization of the configuration of IT in the same way that code for software is democratized and it's audited and it can be checked out. So we're going to be leveraging some of that same technology. Now, I will say there's various different approaches to this technique. We're going to be talking about Terraform, but you can do this using the APIs manually in Postman. You can write your own bash scripts. There are SDKs available in things like Python and Ruby and Ansible. So there's lots of different options available. But here at Jamf, we've got involved alongside the community with Terraform, and we got a few examples that we want to share with you today in terms of how we're doing some things. So first of all, what is infrastructure as code, or IaaC, and how does it really help you in terms of treating your infrastructure like other organizations might treat their software? Well, first of all, it really helps with testing. You can, of course, test new features out by coming along to these wonderful webinars like we're doing here, watching a load of videos, reading lots of PDFs, and ultimately clicking around in portals or cutting and pasting code examples and so on. Sometimes that just takes a bit too much time, and you really want to be testing the end user experience rather than exactly where you go in a UI. And infrastructure as code can help. We have some published examples, they're known as modules in Terraform, which can give you a shortcut to readily boilerplated configuration examples. So that's one area. The next area is for it to be repeatable. So let's imagine you do something, you have something configured exactly how you like it. Well, what if you've done that in a staging environment? What if you have multiple different environments that you're responsible for? What if you want to blow it away and start again with another environment, another instance, and so on? It's a lot of manual clicking. It's a lot of speed running you might have to do there. So having your actual configuration down as code means that you can repeat those exact steps. You can destroy them again. You can start again. Everything should be repeatable and extremely atomic in what you do. And then lastly, there's an element of scalability. And I don't necessarily mean the number of devices or users that you support, but the number of instances, the areas that you're configuring, and sometimes even just the admins that are responsible for your configuration. So in terms of documenting what you're doing, having a run list, maybe bringing on other team members that might need to sort of understand how you configure the environment and be responsible for supporting that, it really helps infrastructure as code, because in a sense it's self-documenting. You can still augment it with other run lists and other documentation you might be interested in, but especially with Terraform, it kind of acts as a pseudocode configuration in its very nature. So it really helps with that approach. And what do we do at Jamf internally with this? So as I mentioned, we actually have a public GitHub repo. You can get to it via GitHub, but you can also get to it via the HashiCorp registry. And here we have many, I think hundreds of examples of what are known as modules. So individual outcomes and use cases, and they might be related to various different resources. So it might be deploying scripts, extension attributes, smart groups, and policies to do something in Jamf Pro. It might also be configuring Jamf Protect and Jamf Security Cloud. And in some cases, we're even configuring third-party solutions like CrowdStrike and Zscaler to ultimately achieve the outcomes for our customers. So have a look at those examples. And then we've also utilized this same underlying technology in an onboarding platform that we call Jamf Onboarder. And it's generally for net new customers, but I'm going to show you some of it because you might find it interesting how you can abstract away the infrastructure as code and provide GUIs, and you can provide your end users, or maybe you're a partner or an MSP. There's some interesting things you can do there with that technology. But I'll provide some links to this later, but you can have a look at everything that we're doing. The cool thing about Terraform is everything's so kind of has to be by design in most cases. So you can actually have a look at the underlying modules, the underlying providers. It's kind of APIs all the way down. So everything ultimately is going to be an API, whether you're driving it from a GUI or whether you're driving it from infrastructure as code. But we're really just helping so you don't have to do as many manual tasks when you're doing things. And there'll be a link to that in a moment, so go check that out. But I have a video for us to watch, an example of, again, kind of speed running if we were going to do some configuration, selecting some of these modules. I think I have to click next to start the video up. But here we have a net new Jamf Pro instance, or at least it's been configured in that manner. So there's no policies, there's no profiles. I don't think there's any apps configured at all whatsoever. There's no smart groups. And that's on the Mac side of things. The same is true on the mobile side of things. So if I had a run list in terms of how I needed to bootstrap this Jamf Pro configuration, it might take hours, maybe more, depending on exactly what I'm doing. I can just run a Terraform command. There's lots of different ways to run this command, by the way. You don't have to do it on the command line. There's ways of actually having it run directly from GitHub, and there's other tools like Terraform Cloud or Spacelift that can do this for you. But as you see here, I'm going to be adding 63 resources, and it just, it's the power of infrastructure as code, right? It's able to go through based on a previous configuration. This has been run numerous times, and the cool thing about it, I don't know if we show it in this video, but you can destroy your configuration or modify the configuration just as quickly. So Terraform will actually go out there and have a look at the existing configuration of Jamf Pro. I know we started with one that was net new here, but even if you had an existing one and you made one configuration change to, let's say, an extension attribute or something like that, it's smart enough to know exactly where the drift was, and even to identify if there had been a manual change. And so here you see, we can go around the GUI and have a look at all of that configuration that had been done there. And again, as I mentioned earlier, what's neat about this, it's testable and it's repeatable and it's scalable. So you can have a configuration that is exactly what your organization needs for certain use cases, and see exactly how that's being configured. And if anyone wants to make a change, maybe you do some things manually in a staging environment, but when it comes to production, a lot of our customers now are saying, in a production environment, especially for things like scripts that tie into extension attributes and so on, we need to make sure that we've got some auditability in that. So we're going to run that through a dev, a staging environment, production, and have that ultimately be approved before it goes out there. So that's what it looks like in terms of managing a Pro instance. And there's some things that go on behind the scenes as well with other Jamf consoles. I wanted to show you the onboarder product that we've got as well that I mentioned. You guys might not necessarily need to use this if you've already got a mature Jamf environment, but just to show you, some of the investment we've done behind the scenes, net new customers can use this to onboard and pick and choose the use cases and the outcomes that they have for their Jamf for mobile or Jamf for Mac, in this case, environment. So, all these options really are just configuring Terraform modules. So you can build a GUI, and it really just abstracts away some of the complexity of configuring Terraform to somebody who's not really aware of how Terraform works. They don't necessarily need to be aware of it. And all it's doing is making some relatively rudimentary changes to the HashiCorp configuration language, which is a very pseudocode configuration. And in here, we're just providing some of the credentials for the various different consoles that it's able to configure automatically. And one of the neat things about this for net new customers is that it abstracts away all the various different portals. So I think we scrub through some of the timing here in this video. Takes about 2 minutes to do this. And then we get customers on their way with just some manual tasks that they have to do in the back end. So again, the reason I'm showing you this is because there's an investment here from Jamf in terms of supporting infrastructure as code in GitOps, and it goes across our customer base, not just at the enterprise strategic level, where maybe some of our customers are running it themselves at the core level, but even our smaller customers and net new customers can leverage some of this technology to automate their deployment. So here are the links. Have a look at the provider. The Jamf Pro provider that we utilize in these examples is a community provider, which is great. So have a look at what's going on there. It's all open source. You can log issues. You can do pull requests. You can have a look at the code. And then there's the Jamf provided modules that, as I mentioned earlier, heavily utilize that Jamf Pro provider, but also use other providers such as Jamf Security Cloud, Jamf Protect, and some third-party providers that we help with outcomes and solutions for our customers. And over to you, Adam, to talk more about Platform SSO.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Some really cool stuff that you have going on there. I love the automations. That's neat stuff. Cool. So yeah, we're going to talk about platform SSO. So this is a word that you might have heard around the block before. It's not new, but it's definitely maturing. So platform SSO is going to encompass not only macOS, but also our browsers and our applications. So there are two platform SSO credential authentication types. So we have password and then we have SEP key. And we'll talk about both of these more in depth here. So the first one of these types, it's password back. So the local macOS password, it unlocks platform SSO tokens. It's kept in sync with our identity provider. So either Microsoft Entra or Okta. It's stored in the user's keychain, and it supports Touch ID to unlock the password. So we're going to dive into a demo here, and this is using one of our partners, Okta. So you'll see here the user is going to be prompted to register for Platform SSO. The user's presented with a very clear overview of Platform SSO, highlighting benefits such as password synchronization and seamless access to their applications and data. This next step, it does require that we enter our local macOS account password, which is going to allow us to access our Mac and its data exclusively through our Okta Platform SSO password. We'll now authenticate with Okta using our corporate credentials. And then next, we'll complete identity verification through Okta Verify or an alternative multi-factor authentication method. So let's go ahead and acknowledge the prompt here. And once we have that acknowledged, great, we're almost finished. We authenticated with Okta and we are registered with Platform SSO. So one last little authentication here, and we're going to be ready to go with Platform SSO. And you'll see here our password has been synced with our local Okta Platform SSO account. So let's see how this appears in system settings. So if we open up system settings, you can see here now we have a platform SSO menu here. It's letting us know who the user is, what platform SSO method we're using, and then it lets us know the registration status and whether or not those SSO tokens are present. This is very helpful for any troubleshooting. The user could simply come in here and they could repair the registration, or they could re-authenticate to get single sign-on tokens. The second authentication type is secure enclave. So platform SSO utilizes non-human readable digital keys and tokens that are generated by the secure enclave processor, aka SEP. These tokens are hardware bound and non-exportable, ensuring they cannot be extracted from the device. While a local password is still required for certain operations, it is not synced across systems. Users can conveniently unlock these secure tokens using either Touch ID or their password, providing both security and ease of access. Next, let's explore secure enclave-backed platform SSO. In this example here, we're going to be registering with Microsoft as the identity provider, where the user is prompted to begin platform single sign-on registration. First, we will authenticate with our Touch ID or local account password. This is going to prove that we have access to the secure enclave by utilizing our Touch ID. Next, we will sign in using our corporate credentials. In this example, we use our password, but multi-factor authentication is also supported. After successful authentication, the system prompts us to enable Microsoft Company Portal as a passkey provider. This key is useful for situations where SSO tokens may have expired, and it's a great additional troubleshooting tool to make sure that you can access your organizational resources. Now our registration is complete. So in this example, I'll launch Microsoft Teams for the first time. Notice that no sign-in prompt appears. Next, I'm going to go ahead and open Safari, and I'm going to navigate to my Outlook mail. Observe how the credentials are securely passed through without any login window, allowing immediate access to my company applications and email without any authentication or configuration steps. Platform SSO represents a critical evolution for enterprise Mac deployment, with native implementation being essential for long-term success. While Platform SSO continues to improve annually, organizations must evaluate their unique requirements and migration capabilities when adopting this technology. As Platform SSO matures and becomes more widely implemented, identity vendors will be freed to focus on solving the next generation of Mac enterprise challenges rather than foundational authentication issues. Here's a sneak peek at what is coming with macOS 26 with our partners Okta and Microsoft. Before you do anything on your Mac, you are being challenged for your identity provider password. We're excited to launch Platform SSO during Setup Assistant later this year. This is a great example of where Jamf is leading into Apple innovation. We have a lot of really cool things coming, such as unauthenticated guest mode. This will be very helpful for shared environments. Tap to log in. This is something that will allow you to log into a Mac with your iPhone. Managed passkeys, while they're available today, we could actually lock down passkeys on our managed Mac. Platform SSO macOS account privileges. An example of this would be maybe somebody could change their Wi-Fi, but they can't change the clock on a computer. And then shared signals framework. We could share and exchange information for what we're seeing between vendors. So this is really great from a security perspective.
Great. Thanks, Adam. And I think now that's all from us from the webinar. And hopefully those Q&As we've been able to get to in the Q&A section. If not, we will look to follow up. And if you've missed anything today, again, this webinar will be going out as a recording shortly after your attendance. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much.